You've been feeding your plants nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium for years, yet your harvests keep disappointing you. Here's what fertilizer companies don't tell you. There are 15 hidden minerals your plants desperately need that standard fertilizers never provide. And without them, you're limiting your harvest potential by up to 2/3. After 40 years of growing everything from tomatoes to fruit trees, I've discovered these forgotten minerals can transform struggling plants into production powerhouses. Today I'm revealing all 15 minerals that can triple your harvests when used correctly. Pay special attention to number 8 that makes your tomatoes taste like candy, and that bonus tip at the end will show you how to get all these minerals from one surprising free source. The first hidden mineral that can transform your garden is silicon. While it's the second most abundant element in Earth's crust, most gardeners have never even heard of using it in their gardens. Silicon works like an invisible armor for your plants, creating a protective barrier and cell walls that makes them incredibly resilient. When your tomatoes get silicon, their stems become noticeably thicker and stronger, able to support heavy fruit loads without breaking or needing excessive staking. Cucumber plants treated with silicon develop a natural resistance to powdery mildew and spider mites because the strengthened cell walls become harder for pests and diseases to penetrate. What makes silicon particularly valuable is how it helps plants handle stress. During drought conditions, silicon helps plants maintain their water balance and reduces wilting by up to 40%. In my own garden, I've watched silicon-treated tomato plants sail through heat waves that devastated untreated plants just a few rows over. The leaves stay turgid and green instead of curling and yellowing under stress. You can add silicon to your garden using several methods. Diatomaceous earth provides a slow-release form when mixed into soil at planting time. Rice hulls, either fresh or composted, are packed with silicon and make an excellent mulch that gradually breaks down. For faster results, liquid silicon supplements like potassium silicate can be applied as a foliar spray every 2 weeks during the growing season. The key is starting early because silicon needs time to incorporate into plant tissues. Apply it when transplanting seedlings or at the first sign of new growth in spring. Most gardeners notice stronger stems within 3 weeks and significantly less pest damage by midsummer. The next critical mineral your plants need is molybdenum, and despite its tongue-twisting name, it's absolutely essential for healthy plant growth. This trace mineral acts as the key that unlocks nitrogen for your plants. Without adequate molybdenum, your plants could be surrounded by nitrogen fertilizer and still show signs of nitrogen deficiency, like yellowing leaves and stunted growth. It's particularly crucial for leafy greens like lettuce, spinach, and cabbage, as well as nitrogen-fixing legumes like beans and peas. The symptoms of molybdenum deficiency are often misdiagnosed as nitrogen problems. You'll see older leaves turning pale green or yellow between the veins, while the edges might curl upward and develop a scorched appearance. In cauliflower and broccoli, you might notice a condition called whiptail, where the leaves become narrow and distorted. The frustrating part is that adding more nitrogen fertilizer won't help because the plant can't process it without molybdenum. What's fascinating about molybdenum is how little you actually need. We're talking about amounts so small they're measured in parts per million. Yet that tiny amount makes the difference between a thriving garden and struggling plants. Molybdenum becomes less available in acidic soils, which is why gardens with pH below 6.0 often show deficiency symptoms even when molybdenum is present. Adding molybdenum to your garden is surprisingly simple and inexpensive. A foliar spray made from sodium molybdate or ammonium molybdate works fastest, with just 1 teaspoon dissolved in a gallon of water, treating an entire garden bed. You can also use seed treatments by soaking legume seeds in a molybdenum solution before planting. For long-term correction, incorporate molybdenum into your soil through composted materials or specialized micronutrient fertilizers. The results are often dramatic, with nitrogen deficiency symptoms disappearing within 2 weeks of application. The third hidden mineral that can revolutionize your harvest is cobalt. While plants need only the tiniest trace amounts, this mineral plays an outsized role in creating naturally fertile soil. Cobalt is essential for the beneficial bacteria that live in the root nodules of beans, peas, and other legumes. These bacteria are the ones responsible for pulling nitrogen from the air and converting it into a form plants can use. Without adequate cobalt, this natural nitrogen factory shuts down, forcing you to rely on expensive fertilizers. When your legumes have enough cobalt, something magical happens in your garden. Those bean plants don't just feed themselves, they actually enrich the soil for future crops. Each plant can fix up to 200 pounds of nitrogen per acre over a growing season, essentially creating free fertilizer for your next planting. I've seen garden beds that have grown cobalt. Supplemented legumes produce incredible tomato harvests the following year without any added nitrogen fertilizer. Beyond nitrogen fixation, cobalt influences how plants handle stress and disease. Research shows that adequate cobalt levels help plants produce compounds that fight off root diseases and improve their drought tolerance. It also plays a role in extending the storage life of harvested vegetables, with cobalt-treated potatoes and root vegetables lasting weeks longer in storage without sprouting or deteriorating. Getting cobalt into your garden doesn't require special products or complicated procedures. Seaweed and kelp amendments are naturally rich in cobalt and provide it in a slow-release form that won't burn plants. You can make a simple cobalt spray by steeping dried seaweed in water for 24 hours and applying it to legume crops every 3 weeks. Composted animal manures, especially from grass-fed livestock, also contain bioavailable cobalt. For immediate correction of severe deficiency, cobalt sulfate can be dissolved at a rate of 1 ounce per 100 gallons of water and applied as a soil drench. Now, if you're finding this video helpful so far, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps us reach more gardeners like yourself, who would also find it so helpful to avoid these mistakes. All right, let's keep going. The fourth mineral that deserves your attention is selenium. Most gardeners have never considered selenium for their plants, yet it's a powerful mineral that enhances both plant health and the nutritional value of your harvest. When plants absorb selenium, they develop stronger antioxidant systems that protect them from environmental stress and disease. This is especially important for allium crops like garlic, onions, and leeks, which naturally accumulate selenium and become significantly more resistant to fungal infections when they have adequate levels. Selenium does something remarkable for your vegetable's nutritional profile. Garlic grown with proper selenium levels contains up to 3 times more antioxidants than garlic grown without it. These selenium-enriched vegetables don't just grow better, they become more nutritious for you and your family. Studies show that eating selenium-rich vegetables from your garden can provide better bioavailable selenium than taking supplements. What's particularly interesting about selenium is its role in seed production and germination. Plants with adequate selenium produce seeds with higher germination rates and stronger seedlings. If you save seeds from your garden, ensuring proper selenium levels means next year's plants start with a significant advantage. I've noticed my selenium-treated pepper plants produce seeds that germinate faster and grow into more vigorous seedlings compared to those from untreated plants. Applying selenium requires careful attention to dosage, since too much can be harmful. The safest approach is using organic sources like composted Brazil nutshells or mustard seed meal, which release selenium slowly. For more controlled application, sodium selenate can be dissolved at a rate of 1 gram per 1,000 square feet and applied as a soil drench once per season. Foliar applications work well for quick uptake, especially for garlic and onions, using a solution of 1 part per million applied every 3 weeks during bulb formation. Always test your soil first, as some regions naturally have high selenium levels that don't require supplementation. Number 5 on our list of hidden minerals is nickel, and while you might think of it as just a metal for making coins, it's actually vital for plant health. Nickel helps plants break down urea, whether it comes from fertilizer or natural decomposition, into forms they can actually use. Without enough nickel, toxic levels of urea build up in plant tissues, causing leaf tip burn, poor germination, and reduced yields. This is particularly important if you use any form of urea-based fertilizer or rely on decomposing organic matter for nitrogen. Pecans, soybeans, and barley are especially sensitive to nickel deficiency, developing a condition called mouse ear, where young leaves become small, rounded, and crinkled. But even crops that don't show obvious symptoms benefit from adequate nickel. Tomatoes with proper nickel levels show improved fruit set and fewer blossom end rot issues. Bean plants use nickel to enhance their nitrogen metabolism, producing fuller pods with better developed seeds. The connection between nickel and seed viability is particularly striking. Seeds from nickel-deficient plants often have poor germination rates, sometimes as low as 20%. But when parent plants have adequate nickel, their seeds show germination rates above 90% with stronger, more uniform seedlings. If you're saving seeds for next season, ensuring proper nickel nutrition this year directly impacts next year's garden success. Adding nickel to your garden is straightforward since plants need only tiny amounts. Wood ash contains natural nickel and can be incorporated at a rate of 5 pounds per 100 square feet, though you'll need to monitor pH since ash is alkaline. Sewage sludge-based composts are rich in nickel, but should be avoided for food crops due to other contaminant concerns. The most precise method is using nickel sulfate, dissolved at 1/4 teaspoon per gallon and applied as a foliar spray twice during the growing season. Most soils contain adequate nickel, so testing before supplementing is wise to avoid over-application. Continuing with item 6, we have vanadium, a mineral so overlooked that most soil tests don't even check for it. Yet vanadium plays a crucial role in chlorophyll production and photosynthesis efficiency. Plants with adequate vanadium develop deeper green colors and capture sunlight more effectively, translating directly into faster growth and higher yields. Leafy greens like spinach, lettuce, and kale show the most dramatic response, often doubling their growth rate when vanadium levels are optimized. Vanadium acts like a photosynthesis enhancer, helping plants convert sunlight into energy more efficiently. In my experience, vanadium-treated plants continue growing vigorously, even during periods of cloudy weather when other plants slow down. The leaves maintain their rich green color longer into the season, extending harvest periods for crops like lettuce that typically bolt quickly in summer heat. Research from agricultural universities shows vanadium can increase root mass by up to 40%, creating plants that are naturally more drought-resistant and better at accessing soil nutrients. This enhanced root system means you can reduce both water and fertilizer inputs while maintaining or even improving yields. Corn and sorghum farmers using vanadium report needing 25% less irrigation water while maintaining the same yield levels. Implementing vanadium in your garden requires minimal effort since plants need only trace amounts. Volcanic rock dust and basalt amendments naturally contain vanadium, along with other trace minerals. Apply these at 50 pounds per 1,000 square feet worked into the soil before planting. Seaweed extracts also provide vanadium in an immediately available form. For targeted application, vanadium sulfate can be used at extremely dilute concentrations, just 1/8 teaspoon per 10 gallons of water applied monthly as a foliar spray. Since vanadium can be toxic at higher levels, more is definitely not better with this mineral. The 7th mineral on our list is iodine, and while you know it's important for human health, it turns out plants benefit from it too. Iodine acts as a natural biostimulant, triggering plants' defense mechanisms and growth hormones. When plants receive trace amounts of iodine, they develop stronger resistance to both bacterial and fungal diseases. Strawberries treated with iodine show significantly less gray mold, while tomatoes experience fewer issues with early blight. What makes iodine particularly valuable is its effect on fruit quality and storage life. Apples and pears treated with iodine during the growing season maintain their firmness longer after harvest, and show less browning when cut. Lettuce and spinach treated with iodine stay crisp longer after harvesting, extending their refrigerator life by several days. The iodine doesn't just help the plant, it increases the iodine content of the produce, providing better nutrition for your family. Iodine also influences how plants respond to environmental stress. During heat waves, iodine-treated plants maintain better cellular function and show less wilting. In spring, iodine helps plants recover faster from unexpected late frosts. I've watched iodine-treated tomato seedlings bounce back from a light freeze that killed untreated plants in the same garden bed. Applying iodine requires extreme dilution since plants need only microscopic amounts. The safest source is kelp meal or liquid seaweed fertilizer, which provides iodine along with other beneficial minerals. Work kelp meal into soil at 20 pounds per 1,000 square feet, or use liquid seaweed as a foliar spray every 2 weeks. For more direct application, potassium iodide can be dissolved at 1/10 of a gram per gallon of water and applied as a foliar spray once monthly. Never exceed recommended rates, as too much iodine will damage plants. Start with half the recommended amount and increase gradually if needed. Now we come to number 8, chromium, which is the mineral that can dramatically improve the flavor of your harvests. Chromium enhances how plants process and transport sugars, leading to noticeably sweeter tomatoes, melons, and fruit. When your plants have adequate chromium, sugars produced in the leaves move more efficiently to developing fruits instead of being wasted. This means your strawberries taste like they came from a gourmet farm stand instead of the grocery store. Chromium's effect goes beyond just sweetness. It helps plants metabolize nutrients more efficiently, resulting in vegetables with more complex developed flavors. Peppers develop their full heat potential, herbs become more aromatic, and root vegetables like carrots and beets develop that deep, earthy sweetness that makes them irresistible. In blind taste tests, produce from chromium-supplemented plants consistently scores higher for flavor intensity and overall quality. The impact on plant metabolism extends to growth and productivity. Chromium helps regulate enzyme systems that control cell division and expansion. This means plants don't just taste better, they actually produce more fruit. Cucumber plants with adequate chromium produce straighter fruits with fewer bitter compounds. Melon vines set more fruit that ripen more uniformly. Even leafy greens benefit, developing thicker leaves with better texture and less bitterness. Adding chromium to your garden requires careful consideration since it exists in different forms with varying availability to plants. Composted leather waste and municipal biosolids contain chromium but aren't recommended for food gardens due to contamination risks. The safer approach is using rock dust amendments from granite or basalt, which contain chromium in its natural mineral form. Apply these at 30 pounds per 1,000 square feet, incorporated into beds before planting. For more immediate results, chromium picolinate, the same form used in human supplements, can be dissolved at 1/4 gram per gallon and applied as a monthly foliar spray during fruit development. Always maintain soil pH between 6.5 and 7.0, as chromium becomes less available in acidic conditions. The 9th mineral that can transform your garden is strontium. While it might sound like something from a chemistry textbook, strontium plays a vital role in strengthening plant cell walls and improving structural integrity. Plants with adequate strontium develop thicker, stronger stems that resist lodging even when loaded with heavy fruit. Your indeterminate tomatoes stand tall without breaking, and your pepper plants don't need constant staking to keep them upright. Strontium works alongside calcium to build robust plant structures, but it does something calcium alone cannot. It enhances the flexibility of cell walls, creating plants that are both strong and resilient. This means stems can bend in strong winds without breaking, and fruits develop fewer stress cracks during rapid growth periods. I've seen strontium-treated plants survive hailstorms that flattened everything else in the garden. What's particularly fascinating about strontium is its effect on fruit quality. Apples and tomatoes with proper strontium levels develop more uniform shapes with fewer deformities. The skin becomes more resistant to cracking, significantly reducing losses from splitting after rain. Stone fruits like peaches and plums show improved firmness and longer shelf life. Even root vegetables benefit, with carrots growing straighter and potatoes developing fewer hollow heart disorders. Incorporating strontium into your garden is relatively simple since it occurs naturally in many amendments. Gypsum contains both calcium and strontium, making it an excellent choice for clay soils. Apply it at 40 pounds per 1,000 square feet, working it into the top 6 inches of soil. Coral sand and crushed oyster shells are rich in strontium and work well for gardeners near coastal areas. For more targeted application, strontium chloride can be dissolved at 1/2 gram per gallon and used as a foliar spray every 3 weeks during the growing season. Since strontium and calcium compete for uptake, maintain a proper balance by not exceeding recommended application rates. Number 10 brings us to rare earth elements, specifically lanthanum and cerium, which might sound like science fiction, but are actually present in small amounts in most soils. These elements act as growth stimulants, enhancing photosynthesis and root development in ways scientists are still trying to fully understand. Plants treated with rare earth elements show increased chlorophyll content, faster growth rates, and improved stress tolerance. The effects of rare earth elements are particularly noticeable in root development. Treated plants develop root systems that are not just larger, but more efficient, with increased numbers of fine root hairs that absorb water and nutrients. Seedlings treated with rare earth elements establish faster after transplanting and show less transplant shock. In my trials, treated tomato seedlings began growing new leaves within 3 days of transplanting, while untreated ones took over a week to recover. What makes rare earth elements especially valuable is their effect on crop yield and quality. Studies from China, where these elements have been used in agriculture for decades, show yield increases of 15 to 25% in vegetables and grains. Fruits from treated plants contain higher levels of vitamins and antioxidants. The elements seem to activate dormant genetic potential in plants, allowing them to express traits for productivity and quality that normally remain suppressed. Adding rare earth elements requires special consideration since they're not found in typical garden amendments. Montmorillonite clay contains natural rare earth elements and can be applied at 20 pounds per 1,000 square feet. Rock phosphate from certain sources contains these elements as well. For more controlled application, commercial rare earth element fertilizers are available, typically applied at very low rates of 1 to 2 pounds per acre. Since research on garden use is limited, start with quarter-strength applications and monitor plant response. Many gardeners report success using diluted solutions of aquarium plant fertilizers that contain rare earth elements applied monthly during the growing season. The 11th mineral on our list is sodium, and before you worry about salt damaging your plants, remember that trace amounts are actually beneficial. While excess sodium is definitely harmful, small quantities help plants regulate water pressure in their cells and improve drought tolerance. Certain crops like beets, chard, and spinach naturally accumulate sodium and actually grow better with modest amounts in the soil. Sodium acts as a partial substitute for potassium in some plant functions, which becomes especially important when potassium is limited. During drought stress, adequate sodium helps plants maintain turgor pressure, keeping leaves from wilting as quickly. Coastal plants have evolved to use sodium effectively, and many garden vegetables retain this ability. Celery grown with proper sodium levels develops that characteristic salty flavor and crispy texture that makes it perfect for fresh eating. The relationship between sodium and plant metabolism is complex, but fascinating. Small amounts of sodium can actually stimulate the production of beneficial compounds in plants. Tomatoes with trace sodium show increased lycopene content, while beets develop deeper colors and sweeter flavors. The key is maintaining the right balance, as too much sodium quickly becomes toxic, while too little misses these benefits. Applying sodium safely requires understanding your soil's current levels and using appropriate sources. Sea salt or Himalayan pink salt can be dissolved at 1 tablespoon per gallon and applied as a foliar spray once per month, but only for sodium-tolerant crops. Kelp and seaweed amendments provide sodium, along with other minerals, in balanced proportions. Wood ash from seaside plants naturally contains beneficial sodium levels. Never apply sodium to acid-loving plants like blueberries or azaleas, and always test your soil before adding any sodium sources. If your irrigation water is already high in sodium, you probably don't need any supplementation. The 12th essential mineral is boron, and this one is so critical that even mild deficiency can cut your yields in half without any obvious symptoms. Boron is absolutely vital for pollination and fruit set. When pollen grains lack boron, they can't form proper tubes to fertilize flowers. This means your squash plants might bloom prolifically but never set fruit, or your apple trees flower beautifully but drop all their developing fruits. Boron deficiency creates some of the most frustrating garden problems. Your cauliflower develops hollow stems and brown curds. Beets show black spots inside that make them unmarketable. Celery cracks and develops brown streaks. Strawberries produce misshapen fruits with poor flavor. The heartbreaking part is these problems often appear just as crops near harvest, ruining months of work. I've seen entire pear harvests lost to boron deficiency, with fruits developing corky spots and deformed shapes. What makes boron particularly important is its role in cell wall formation and sugar transport. Without adequate boron, calcium can't properly strengthen cell walls, leading to disorders like blossom end rot in tomatoes even when calcium is plentiful. Boron helps move sugars from leaves to developing fruits and roots, directly impacting both yield and flavor. Root crops with proper boron develop uniform shapes and store better through winter. Adding boron requires precision since the range between deficiency and toxicity is narrow. Borax, the same product used for laundry, can be dissolved at 1 tablespoon per gallon of water and applied to soil before planting at 1 gallon per 100 square feet. For established plants, reduce the concentration to 1 teaspoon per gallon for foliar application. Organic sources include composted cotton gin waste and sugar beet processing residues. Always test your soil first, as some areas naturally have adequate boron. Sandy soils and areas with high rainfall typically need more frequent boron applications since it leaches easily. The 13th mineral your plants need is copper, which is essential for protecting your garden from disease while intensifying flavors in your harvest. Copper activates enzymes that help plants build their natural defense compounds, creating an internal shield against fungal and bacterial infections. When your tomatoes have adequate copper, they develop stronger resistance to early blight and septoria leaf spot without any fungicide sprays. Your fruit trees become naturally more resistant to fire blight and bacterial canker. Copper's role in flavor development is something commercial growers have known for decades, but home gardeners often overlook. It helps form the compounds responsible for the complex flavors in fruits and vegetables. Carrots with proper copper levels develop that sweet, aromatic flavor that makes them perfect for fresh eating. Potatoes grown with adequate copper have better flavor and develop fewer internal dark spots. Even herbs like basil and oregano produce more essential oils when copper nutrition is optimized, making them more aromatic and flavorful in your cooking. The enzyme systems that copper supports are crucial for lignin formation, which strengthens plant stems and improves overall plant architecture. This means your plants don't just survive. They thrive with sturdy stems that support heavy yields. Green beans stand upright better, making harvest easier. Broccoli heads develop tighter, more uniform crowns. Your fruit trees develop stronger branches that can support heavy crop loads without breaking. Supplementing copper requires caution, since many gardeners already have adequate levels from years of using copper-based fungicides. Start by testing your soil, as excess copper can be toxic to plants and beneficial soil organisms. If supplementation is needed, copper sulfate can be dissolved at 1/4 teaspoon per gallon for foliar application twice per season. Composted animal manures, especially from pigs and poultry, naturally contain bioavailable copper. For organic gardens, copper hydroxide approved for organic use can be applied at label rates. Always avoid copper applications during flowering, as it can damage pollen and reduce fruit set. Number 14 on our list is zinc, a mineral that acts like a master switch for plant hormones and development. Without adequate zinc, your plants literally can't produce the growth hormones they need to develop properly. This shows up as stunted growth, small leaves, and poor fruit development. Corn is particularly sensitive, developing white stripes between leaf veins when zinc is deficient. But even crops that don't show obvious symptoms produce significantly less when zinc is limited. Zinc supercharges seedling development in ways that affect your entire growing season. Seeds germinated in zinc-enriched conditions emerge faster and develop more robust root systems from day one. This early advantage compounds throughout the season, with zinc-sufficient plants consistently outperforming deficient ones by 30 to 40%. In my own garden, pepper seedlings treated with zinc at transplant time begin setting fruit 2 weeks earlier than untreated plants. The hormone regulation that zinc enables affects every aspect of plant growth. It controls auxin production, which determines how plants respond to light and gravity. This means your plants develop better structure, with appropriate branching and leaf positioning for maximum photosynthesis. Zinc helps plants produce the hormones that trigger flowering and fruit set at the right time. Tomatoes with proper zinc set more fruits per cluster. Sweet corn develops fuller ears with fewer missing kernels, and beans produce pods that are completely filled rather than partially developed. Correcting zinc deficiency can produce dramatic results within weeks. Zinc sulfate is the most common supplement, dissolved at 1 tablespoon per gallon, for foliar spray applications every 2 weeks during rapid growth periods. For soil application, zinc sulfate can be broadcast at 1 pound per 1,000 square feet and worked into the soil before planting. Composted leaves, especially from pecan and other nut trees, are naturally high in zinc. Avoid applying zinc with phosphorus fertilizers, as high phosphorus levels can lock up zinc and make it unavailable to plants. The 15th and final mineral on our regular list is manganese, which is absolutely critical for photosynthesis and disease resistance. Manganese activates the enzymes that split water molecules during photosynthesis, literally helping plants breathe and create energy. Without it, plants develop intervenal chlorosis, where leaves turn yellow between the veins, while veins stay green, creating a distinctive striped pattern. But long before visible symptoms appear, manganese deficiency is already limiting photosynthesis and reducing yields. Manganese supercharges your plant's disease resistance in remarkable ways. It helps plants produce phenolic compounds that act as natural fungicides within plant tissues. Gardens with optimal manganese levels show significantly less problems with powdery mildew, rust, and root rot. Potatoes with adequate manganese develop stronger resistance to common scab and late blight. In wet seasons when fungal diseases typically explode, manganese-sufficient plants often remain healthy while neighbors' gardens succumb to disease. The photosynthetic boost from manganese translates directly into plant vigor and productivity. Plants can capture and convert more sunlight into growth, producing larger leaves, stronger stems, and more abundant fruits. Sugar beets and sweet potatoes with proper manganese develop higher sugar contents. Leafy greens maintain their deep green color longer and produce more harvestable leaves. Even nitrogen fixation in legumes improves with adequate manganese, as the bacteria and root nodules require it for their enzyme systems. Addressing manganese needs depends heavily on soil pH, as manganese becomes less available in alkaline soils. For quick correction, Manganese sulfate can be dissolved at 1 tablespoon per gallon and applied as a foliar spray every 2 weeks. In alkaline soils, using sulfur to lower pH often releases adequate manganese that's already present but locked up. Composted oak leaves and pine needles are excellent organic sources of manganese. For prevention, maintain soil pH between 6.0 and 6.5, where manganese availability is optimal. Regular additions of organic matter help maintain manganese in available forms. And now for the bonus tip gardeners swear by. Here's the single most powerful way to get all 15 of these minerals into your garden using something completely free. Collect leaves from different tree species in fall, especially oak, maple, walnut, and fruit trees, and create a diverse leaf mold compost. Each tree species mines different minerals from deep in the subsoil, concentrating them in their leaves. When you combine leaves from multiple species and let them decompose for 6 months with a handful of garden soil as an inoculant, you create a mineral-rich amendment that contains every trace element we've discussed today in perfect plant-available forms. The secret is the diversity. Using at least 5 different tree species ensures you're getting the full spectrum of minerals. Apply this. Leaf mold it 2 inches thick around all your plants in spring, and you'll see the transformation within weeks. Your plants will show that deep green vigor that only comes from complete mineral nutrition, and your harvests will reach levels you never thought possible from your garden space. Thanks for sticking with me through the entire video. If you found this helpful, give it a like, subscribe for more gardening tips, and check out our other videos on growing a better garden.